Welcome back to another video. My name is Alberto, and this is part 3 of the build series for my 2017 Subaru WRX STI. Today we're installing the GrimmSpeed Stealthbox Intake system. This is by far one of the easiest installs we have lined up in this series. I already have my OEM intake removed from the car since in part 1 we had to remove the intake in order to gain access to a bolt holding my OEM downpipe's heat shield in place. So if you're looking for a video on how to remove the intake, make sure to check out part 1. And before we get started, I'd appreciate any feedback from my viewers. Do you prefer the live commentary as I install the parts or voiceovers during videos of the installation? I have a ton of pre-recorded videos for the rest of the series, and this will help the direction of the channel in any future installs. With that being said, let's jump right into the video. Everything I have displayed here is what you're going to need. This is the intake box, piping, and the filter. The only thing that you'll need that isn't currently shown here is the coupler that connects the intake piping to the turbo inlet. I have a portion of my OEM intake box here because if you're going to be running a MAF-based setup, you're going to have to remove your mass airflow sensor from the stock box, relocating it to the GrimmSpeed intake piping. As far as orientation of the intake piping, there are only two possibilities. However, there's an end with extra material at the end of the pipe. This is the side that's going to be inserted into the intake box. It's an air straightener that most intakes have. The actual filter is going to sit slightly above the recessed lip on the intake piping. It's very important that you don't push the filter all the way in. To start off, I'm taking the MAF from my OEM airbox and installing it onto the new intake piping supplied by GrimmSpeed. Grab a small Phillips screwdriver and remove the two screws holding the MAF in place. Reinstall the MAF onto the new GrimmSpeed piping. If you are not running speed density, remember to reconnect the MAF sensor with the end that we disconnected in part 1 when we removed the intake. Now, as I've mentioned before, I buy a lot of my car parts used to save money, so my GrimmSpeed airbox already has the weather stripping installed on both the perimeter of the box as well as the portion where the intake piping enters. If you're installing this for the first time, make sure to install the gasket or weather stripping prior to installation. Install the filter on the end of the pipe with the air straightener and tighten the clamp. Now insert the intake pipe with the filter into the GrimmSpeed airbox. For installing the intake, this is why when installing the GrimmSpeed front mount intercooler on part 2, I left the portion of the piping to my right loose so I had an easier time installing the intake. As far as fitting the GrimmSpeed airbox, it is tough, but use the existing holes and bolts from the frame to orient the airbox correctly. Make sure to reuse the 10mm nuts that held the stock airbox near the passenger side headlight in place. I found it easier to move the coolant lines that cross over the intake piping leading to the coolant expansion tank out of the way when installing the coupler connecting the turbo inlet and intake piping. Fitting the intake coupler onto the turbo inlet is a pretty tight fit, so just be patient and you'll get it. Use the original bolt that mounted the stock airbox to the passenger side frame rail. You'll need a long extension. This bolt shares the location with the GrimmSpeed airbox and the bracket that mounted onto the GrimmSpeed intercooler piping on the passenger side. This bolt holds the GrimmSpeed intercooler piping and the GrimmSpeed airbox in place. I did forget to install another clamp on the turbo inlet side of the intake coupler, but I did end up fixing my mistake afterwards, not shown on video. As long as you reconnected your MAF and tightened everything down, you are now done with the install. And you're probably wondering, but Alberto, what does it actually sound like? And luckily for you, I have a sound clip that I went out the other day to record, and it sounds amazing. Just bear in mind that the video you're going to see with the audio is going to be after the fact, after I went to go get tuned, after I made all these videos that you guys are going to be seeing in the next couple weeks as I upload them. You're going to hear the tile blow-off valve, the exhaust, the intake, the induction noise from the turbo. Let me know what you guys think. Did you guys enjoy this video? Peace out. Catch you next time and enjoy.